There's one thing you need to know about the Ring of Fire. It produces 90% of the world's earthquakes. The Ring of Fire includes about 450 volcanoes.
Every few days, somewhere along the Pacific, the Earth breaks its silence. A city trembles. A volcano exhales. A coastline lifts or sinks by a few invisible centimeters. These events feel separate. Different countries, different disasters, different headlines. But they are all connected. They belong to a single, massive system. A fault line so vast it encircles the ocean, so powerful it shapes nations, and so active that nearly half of the world's population lives within its reach. It's called the Ring of Fire. And if you live in Asia, in Japan, the Philippines, Indonesia, or along the Pacific coast of the Americas, your country exists because of it and survives in spite of it. The mechanism. Why the ring never rests. The Ring of Fire exists because oceanic plates are constantly sinking beneath continental ones. This process is called subduction. As one plate dives beneath another, pressure accumulates. Not for days or years, but for centuries. Sometimes that pressure releases gently. Small tremors, minor eruptions, quiet adjustments, no one remembers. Other times, it releases violently. Megaquakes, tsunamis, explosive eruptions. What makes the Ring of Fire so dangerous is not a single fault. It is the constant motion of the entire system. The plates never stop moving. So, the pressure never stops building, and releases never truly end. This is why disasters along the Ring of Fire feel frequent. Not random, not cursed, continuous. What the Ring of Fire really is. The Ring of Fire is not a single crack in the Earth. It is a 40,000-kilometer chain of tectonic boundaries that wraps almost entirely around the Pacific Ocean. Along this ring, tectonic plates collide. Oceanic crust sinks beneath continents. Magma rises, pressure builds, and energy releases. This is where 90% of the world's earthquakes occur, and where 75% of active volcanoes are found. From Japan to the Philippines, from Indonesia to New Zealand, from Alaska down the western edge of the Americas. The Ring of Fire defines where land rises, where islands form, and where disasters repeat. But this is not just a geological story. It is a story about why nations look the way they do, and why power concentrates where risk is highest. Why disasters cluster in the same places? Look at a map of major earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. They don't spread evenly across the globe. They cluster. Japan, the Philippines, Indonesia, Chile, California. The same regions experience disaster again and again, not because people refuse to learn, but because the Earth's structure funnels energy into the same zones repeatedly. This creates a strange reality. The most dangerous places often become the most prepared, and the least dangerous places are often the least ready. Along the Ring of Fire, nations don't ask if disasters will happen. They ask how often and how survivable. Why Asia lives on the Ring of Fire. Asia is not randomly unlucky. Much of East and Southeast Asia sits exactly where massive tectonic plates collide. The Pacific Plate, the Philippine Sea Plate, the Eurasian Plate, and others pressing inward from every direction. This is why Japan experiences constant earthquakes. The Philippines sits above deep ocean trenches. Indonesia hosts some of the most dangerous volcanoes on Earth. These countries were not built on stable land. They were built where the Earth is most active, because that same tectonic violence creates coastlines, islands, fertile soil, and access to the sea. The Ring of Fire is dangerous, but it is also why Asia has so many islands, ports, and strategic choke points. Risk and opportunity are inseparable here. How the Ring of Fire shapes nations. The Ring of Fire does more than shake buildings. It shapes where cities are built, where ports exist, where populations concentrate, and where governments invest in resilience. Japan didn't become the world's leader in earthquake engineering by choice. The Philippines didn't develop disaster response systems out of curiosity. Indonesia didn't learn to live beside volcanoes because it wanted to. They adapted because they had no alternative. Living on the Ring of Fire forces nations to engineer smarter, plan for failure, build redundancy, and accept risk as part of identity. Disaster becomes a constant background pressure shaping policy, culture, and infrastructure. Why people keep living there. From the outside, it seems irrational. Why would millions live on land that shakes, erupts, and floods? But people don't settle where the earth is calm. They settle where life is possible. The Ring of Fire created coastlines rich with food, islands positioned for trade, fertile volcanic soil, and access to the sea. Over generations, families built culture, memory, and identity there. Leaving isn't simple, so instead of fleeing danger, societies learned to absorb it. They built cities that sway, early warning systems, evacuation routes, disaster drills that feel normal. Risk didn't disappear. It became familiar. The Ring of Fire is not finished. The Ring of Fire is not a phase. It is not calming down. It is not aging out of activity. The plates beneath the Pacific are still moving. The pressure is still accumulating. The releases will continue. Future earthquakes will happen. Future volcanoes will erupt. Future tsunamis will form. The only uncertainty is where, when, and how prepared nations will be when it happens. The Pacific, power built on risk. The Ring of Fire surrounds the most important ocean on Earth. The Pacific is the world's largest trade corridor, the backbone of global shipping, and the center of modern naval power. Ports along the Ring of Fire move trillions of dollars every year. They connect Asia to the Americas. They sustain global supply chains. But those same ports sit beside fault lines, trenches, and volcanic arcs. This means earthquakes don't just threaten homes. They threaten trade, energy, food supply, and military logistics. A single rupture can shut down ports, damage undersea cables, disrupt shipping lanes, and ripple through global markets. The Ring of Fire is not just dangerous, it is geopolitically critical. The geography of power. The Ring of Fire is not just a danger zone. It is a reminder that geography shapes destiny. It determines where cities rise, where trade flows, where power concentrates, and where resilience must exist. Asia's greatest risks sit beside its greatest strengths. And nations along the Ring of Fire have learned something the rest of the world is still discovering. You cannot control the Earth, but you can build societies strong enough to live on a moving planet. The Ring of Fire will keep burning. The question is not whether it will shape the future, but which nations are prepared to live inside it.